Just want to let people know you have just recorded an important video. It's not going to be available to the public. It talks about the upcoming crash, that as you say, it's going to be fast, bloody, and unavoidable. But then you explain how people can position themselves to profit from the crash. Our viewers can watch it at londonreal.tv/Jim. I highly recommend people watch that video. Jim, I want to ask you about the international banks, because when I worked in credit derivatives here in London for 10 years, two of my biggest clients were Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank. And it was very hard for me to watch a massive institution like Credit Suisse literally just go bankrupt in front of my eyes. And Deutsche Bank, again, one of the biggest European banks, one of the biggest derivative traders in Europe, again, at one point was faltering and looked like it might be going that way. What do you make of this international crisis as well? And again, how does this play out?
Well, that's a great question. I do think that's the next battle space, as we put it, in European banks in particular, but internationally. But there's a thread that runs from Bitcoin in November 2021 through Silicon Valley Bank to Credit Suisse. Let me explain what that is. What's going on is contagion. It's financial contagion. And the word contagion is not just a kind of cute metaphor. It's the mathematics of a viral contagion, which we've all just lived through with COVID, and we don't need to rehash that, and a financial contagion are the same. Robert Schiller pointed this out in the book, but I had identified it years ago, and I use it in my own analysis. It's called the SEIR model. And S is for susceptible, so like you might get the disease. E is exposed, you were exposed to it. I is infected, and R is recovered. So are you susceptible? Did you actually get exposed? Did you get the disease? And did you recover? They left out dead. I mean, there's recovered is like what's net of people who get it, and some of them die. And there are the banks that get carried off the field. But the math is the same. And so when we look at how disease spreads, financial panic spreads the same way. Now, this panic, you can say it started with Silicon Valley Bank, and that's fair enough. But this goes back to November 2021. That's when the Bitcoin crash began. So between November 2021 and November 2022, Bitcoin fell 70%. It went from about $68,000 to about $15,000. Now, I know it's back. It's up over 25. That's Bitcoin. But that happened. And a lot of people had Bitcoin loans. They had deposits in crypto exchanges that themselves had overinvested in Bitcoin or had leveraged bets on Bitcoin. So you were seeing a crypto crisis. You were seeing a financial crisis in crypto land with Alameda, FTX, of course, that was a fraud, Genesis, Three Arrows. There were and they're still happening. There were a whole series of crypto firms collapsing. And I was watching this, and the question I kept asking myself was, okay, there's a fire in crypto land. They call it the crypto winter study. Does that jump from crypto land to mainstream banking? That was the question I was asking. It's in biology, it's called a zoonotic transfer. Does it go from the bat to the human? Although the Wuhan virus came from a lab, but the idea that there is zoonotic transfer is true. So I said, does this somehow jump from crypto land to mainstream banking? And it did. And the vehicle was not Silicon Valley Bank. It was something called Silvergate Bank. So now Silvergate Bank announced it was filing for bankruptcy the day before Silicon Valley Bank went down. But what's special about Silvergate Bank? Silvergate Bank was a regular bank. Remember the Federal Reserve System, FDIC insured, but it was completely in crypto. It was financing crypto lenders. It owned crypto, et cetera. And so that was the bridge. That was how the virus jumped from crypto land to mainstream banking. And then Silicon Valley Bank fell right after that. So now we have, we've gone over the kind of capsule history of Silicon Valley Bank and so forth. But now the contagion spreads to Credit Suisse. But let's get in our time machine and go back to 2014. Brisbane, Australia, November 2014. What happened? That was a G20 meeting. And it was not long after the 2008 financial crisis. And the biggest blowback out of 2008 is, hey, the taxpayers bailed out everything, which they did. They didn't get any reward, and all the big shots kept their jobs. Jamie Dimon's bonus didn't get whacked. I mean, they all kept their jobs. John Mack and Jamie Dimon, and you go down the list of names. Lehman Brothers failed. Okay, they were carried out feet first, but all the other banks were propped up by the Fed. I mean, Morgan Stanley was days away from failing. You go back over the history of that. They were calling John Mack saying, "Could you bail out Lehman?" He was like, "I'm kind of busy bailing myself out right now." And Morgan Stanley would have fallen. Goldman next, probably Citi. If J.P. Morgan was the last guy standing, don't know. But that's what was happening. As I said, they dropped the curtain, truncated it. They made Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley bank holding companies overnight. I've worked on bank applications. They take 2 years if they like you and 3 years if they don't. But this happened in literally overnight. Hey, you're a bank holding company, which meant the Fed could bail them out, and they did. But there was a big political reaction to that. This contributed to, the rise of Donald Trump, the rise of the Tea Party, Nigel Farage. I mean, there was just a lot of nationalist conservative blowback to this. So the elites at the G20 meeting said, we can't have that happen again. So here's the new deal. We're not doing any more bailouts. We're going to do the bail-in. And what's the difference? The bail-in is we're just going to whack the parties in interest. Equity gets, so in a crisis, in a collapse, there's a hole in the balance sheet. Equity gets wiped out. Depositors are going to get wiped out to the extent needed to fill the hole in the balance sheet. And senior creditors, we're just going to keep going and take money from all the holders of any level until the hole in the balance sheet is filled. And only then will the government get involved, but hopefully that won't be necessary. No more bailouts of bondholders, in other words, no more bailouts of depositors. That was the bail-in rule. So now come to Silicon Valley Bank. What happened? The FDIC actually did the right thing. They said, okay, bail-in applies. We're not going to go to the taxpayers or the insurance fund. We're going to say those deposits are gone. And they did. But that lasted 48 hours. And then they said, you said, just kidding. The deposits are all good. So they abandoned. So this is nine years, 2014 to 2023. This is 9 years of living under the bail-in regime. And when they tested it, it only lasted 48 hours. Okay, so that was a joke. So now come over to Credit Suisse. And this is your question, Brian. What did they do? Well, if you were applying the Brisbane bail-in rules, you would have said equity zero, bondholders, okay, you're going to take a loss, et cetera. It's not what they did. When the Swiss National Bank did the shotgun merger, UBS gave $3 billion to equity. Now, that was down 97%. It was $100 billion that market not that long ago, and they got $3 billion, but they got something. But then there were these other bonds called COCOs, which are contingent convertible. What the heck is that? Well, it's called AT1. That's the category on the capital table, and it counts as equity, even though it's a bond, and for regulatory capital purposes. And so the way a contingent convertible works, it's a bond, pays interest, all that good stuff. But if the bank gets into distress, it can flip to equity. So it builds up the equity cushion and saves the bank. That was the idea. And the bondholders were willing to take that risk because they got a higher yield. And they said, hey, if I end up as equity, that's not all bad either. Maybe the bank's worth something. But what happened was they waited until the bank was dead. Then they flipped the COCOs from bonds to equity and then wiped out the equity. So the idea that this was your life preserver, it was a pretty soggy life preserver, they got wiped out. But they still gave $3 billion to the old equity, even though they wiped out the newly converted equity in the COCOs. And by the way, this destroyed the COCO market. It's $275 billion. That market's dead. If you own them, enjoy, as we say in New Jersey. But why? So why did they get $3 billion to equity? Because equity was owned by the Saudis, because they had bailed out Credit Suisse not that long ago. And the kingdom said, hey, if you wipe us out, we're taking all our money out of Switzerland. So they had to throw them a bone, $3 billion worth, just to kind of a loss of face with the Saudis. So, man, you got layers behind this, Brian.
That's crazy.
The kingdom calling the Swiss National Bank saying, "Don't mess with us." All right, here's $3 billion. What about the COCOs? Too bad for them. They're not the kingdom. And it was a shotgun wedding, and they patched it together. And hopefully UBS will survive.
So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim. Watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, do you want to profit from crypto? Then join my DeFi Academy. The Crypto DeFi Academy will help you create generational wealth. But don't take my word for it. Listen to my students.
When I first got into crypto, I remember thinking to myself, I need to learn more. Brian Rose, learning crypto, learning DeFi, gotta do it.
I am so grateful that I jumped in and did this. I had to break through some limiting beliefs that I can do this, that I can afford this, that I can be in this.
It challenges the things that are deeply rooted within us.
Joining DeFi Academy has been one of the best decisions I have made on my blockchain journey.
This course was a life changer, a game changer, a huge eye-opener, coming from knowing practically nothing at the speed of the learning over 4 weeks was just fantastic.
The information you provided in this class was invaluable.
I feel far more confident in my next steps.
You took complex concepts and made them easier to understand.
What's different than so many other ones is it just doesn't tell you what to do. It actually makes you do it.
This is for people who are serious about becoming traders. This is the way it should be done.
I realized from this learning experience again that it is not about what you learn, but about who you learn it from.
The energy was insane. I've never experienced such incredible energy on a live call. Brian Rose, you are a legend, my friend.
It's the only thing in the market where you can get all information and learn everything what you need to know.
Everything is so clear and so well done, and I'm just forever grateful for this program.
It made me feel so much more confident about crypto than I did before.
I did not anticipate how passionate I was going to become about it.
This course has been like a big learning experience for me, not just in the crypto space, but just an overall balance of life.
What I've learned is, how to take ownership, of my life in a way that I really hadn't before.
Yeah, you can't put a price on that, really.
I would recommend it to anybody, top notch.
Excellence does not come cheap. So if you want excellence, you gotta pay for it, but it's so worth it.
Pull the trigger. That's what this course is about.
You're not going to regret it, really. It's amazing.
Thank you, Brian and team.
So what are you waiting for? Crypto is happening now. Click the link below, submit your application, and let me mentor you on how to create generational wealth and build the decentralized financial infrastructure of the future.